What's all the PMS with Coach G? It's positively motivating sisters with purpose, meaning, style. Are you ready for positive conversations inspiring you to your next level? Do you need motivation to get you growing? Are you a sister, woman, leader, boss, mom, wife, female, her, she? I think you know what I mean. Are you seeking purpose in your life? Do you know the meaning for which you stand? Do you know your style is your unique authenticator? If you answered yes to any one of these questions, this podcast is designed with you in mind, which embodies the whole you mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, and spiritually. Sisters, we are on a journey in connecting you from where you are to your what's next with purpose, meaning, style, and it all starts with you. Hi, this is Coach G, your Chief PMS cheerleader, motivating and empowering you to win in your personal and professional life, your connector, guiding you and bridging the gap from where you are to your what's next. I am your leadership and growth coach strategist, empowerment speaker, author, mom, wife, Christian, and I get to serve you in doing what I am passionate about. You, sisters, we are on a journey for you living your life on purpose, for purpose, with purpose, meaning, style. Thank you, as always, for being in this space with me, listening and sharing this podcast as I continue to share with you and motivate you, not just for the moment, but you know what, for a lifetime, and help you create the habits in reaching your success story. So I thank you for giving yourself permission to listen to this podcast and making it a habit in listening every week to educate, inspire, and elevate your growth personally and professionally. So before I begin, let me remind you there are so many ways that you really support this show through your comments, through your listening, through you sharing your love. But you know what? There's also a financial way that you can support this show as we continue to show up to empower you and other women on their personal and professional growth journey, along with having other guests on the show. From the cost of maintaining the show, you know what, the list can go on and on. So thank you for planning, that contribution and saying, you know what, I support you, I support this show, I support the value of this show, the purpose of this show, and what you continue to share with others. So thank you. And what you can do, you can go to the show description and click on the link, support the show, and make your donation, which is your voice in saying, hey, it's me. I support you. I support this and how we serve and what we deliver. So thank you for being a blessing so we can continue to bless others. So, can you say this with me? I got the power. Talk about power in your conversations. That's where we are. So, can you say that with me again? And you know what? Let's talk about power in your conversations, in your community, in your advocating, in your physiology of physical intelligence, in the true sense of knowing you got the power to choose in mastering your conversations. Yes, that's what we're talking about. We are in episode 74, Power Talks, mastering your conversations. Whether that's in relationships, negotiating a business deal, pitching your idea to management or investors, building an organization, teaching a class, training others, how you respond to what your body and brain signals, or even the conversations you have in your day to day. Saying all of that, that's where we are now. We're going to talk about that. And I get to have power talks with, some upcoming guests that I just want to mention. We get to talk about the power of community, the power of physical intelligence, the power of advocating. All that carries a power source with that in saying, you know what, but it's conversations. It's the talks we have. It's how we deliver and who we're delivering it to. So maybe, this, you could be talking to girlfriends. You could be talking to coworkers, people in your community, family members, your spouse, children, employers, maybe just even partnerships that you're in or training classes. I say all of that for you to understand that there are some ways that we can be powerful in our conversations and how we really can master that. We talk a lot about communication. That's still the same in that part of communicating. But I just want to talk about, because we talk about conversations here. We talk about talking, the sisters sitting at the table, just having conversation. When you hear our guest that comes on the show, that's what that is. But even in that, there is mastering those conversations. So you can take that, what you learn here, how you're educated, or maybe it's just even some things that are reminders to you that you can take into your workplace, conversations again in your home with family, friends. So I want you to hear this. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? So hear this. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? You heard that. So this is a part in Rush Hour when Chris Tucker, well, that's not his character name, that's his real name, but he was Detective something. I can't remember the detective name he was, but anyway, he makes a statement to Jackie Chan, which that was not his name, but the thing is that when he approached him, it was almost that he assumed, since he was from another country or culture, that he may not have spoken the same language as him. So my question is, are we allowing this judgment to happen in our conversations? But we want to have conversations that can be empowered, that can be powerful conversation and not disempowering conversations. You cannot have power in your conversations like this. You can't do that when maybe prejudge the situation or you approach someone and say, you're already saying they're not going to understand, or do they even understand what he said? Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? But sometimes we could take that same question and ask that question. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? It's the way we say it. Maybe it's the part of just seeking that understanding. So let's talk about that. We get to tailor our conversations to who we are talking to, but that starts with being knowledgeable about who you're talking to, who's that audience. So let's talk about power, PMS tips, and mastering your conversations. And you know what? This power helps us build strong social relationships. And it starts with the P. Be present, present in the space. That part of that power talk, be present in the space. In other words, you're saying you are important. And then my question is to you is, how are you listening? Is your mind wandering about what are you going to say, what they're saying before they say it, thinking of other things while they're talking to you? Does some of that sound familiar? You know what? I've caught myself doing that before. Sometimes it could be because of that conversation. You are there, you're present in that space, but maybe you're nervous about the conversation, or maybe you just don't want to miss it, or maybe you're excited. But with all of that, still being present is being attentive to where you are in that moment. We want to fully embrace ourselves in conversations. And that's what I get to do when, man, having guests on this show, we get to do that and have those power talks. And we share that to you, to this community, to those that are listening. But when we decide to not connect in our conversations, then we begin to divide in our conversations. You've heard the saying, you know, undivided attention. Give me your undivided attention. In other words, let's connect. Let's connect with where we are, what we're talking about, what we're presenting, all of that, and staying connected with that person or people. Because you could be on stage delivering, a talk or topic to a crowd of people. You could be training a class of students. You could be training managers. You could just be training someone to take over because you're getting promoted into another position and now you get to train this other person. All of that are still those conversations, that communication that you're having with that other person. In other words, when you're present in that space, you're not checking out. You're totally, fully immersed into that conversation. Because when we do this, we are allowing other things in that space. And then when we don't, we are allowing things in that space that pulls us to not being fully present to the conversation at hand. And then, you know what? You have to be open, open minded, open for feedback, authentic, open, adaptable. And what you're saying to that other person in that conversation, in that power talk, you're saying you are valued. In other words, you have to remain flexible to give and receive feedback, even that constructive criticism that sometimes we are not open to hearing or listening to. But when we do that, we allow ourselves to improve in our personal and professional life because we're seeking that guidance. We're open to saying, what are you saying to me? You know, don't say it all and not be able to receive what you need to be heard in the conversation. In other words, if you're in the conversation and you're saying, you know, this is what you should do, this is how it should be, but you're not open to hear what that person is saying on your behalf. Maybe they're saying to you, well, that's not quite what I was asking because you're saying something based on what you think they're saying or wanting or needing. Maybe sometime even in the case, sometimes we can do the fault finding, you know, and so we give that type of feedback, but we don't want to receive that same when it comes to us. It really reminds me of a scripture in Matthew when it says, and why worry about a speck in your friend's eye when you have a log in your own? How can you think of saying to your friend, let me help you get rid of that speck in your eye when you can't see past the log in your own eye? Do you hear that? So, in other words, we all should be open to that feedback and being authentic enough in our conversation. In other words, being honest and truthful. That actually helps clear a path mentally, emotionally, and socially, allowing that effective conversation to take place. You can even look at it like this: a good return on the investment of social conversation. Because in that conversation, what you're spending time there, you're spending time to talk to someone, to train someone, whatever that is. But it's a conversation that you're having. And then the other one is just work through the weeds. I know you said, what? Yes, work through the weeds. What you're saying here is you are understood. You know, we get to work through the flaws of what's said and what's heard. So, in other words, we seek to understand and to be understood. You know, again, you could be in a training course, you're training people, and you're very knowledgeable about this topic. But you have to realize that, wait a minute, I may understand the processes, but this person don't understand. So make sure that when you're having that conversation that they understand. And often when I have guests on the show and we're talking about a topic, if it's something you've never heard of, or maybe you have heard of it. Like I said, we have a vast audience of women that listen, and even some men, but I don't want to ever take that for granted that, okay, the person here knows it. Okay, I know it. Okay, they should know it. No. Why don't you explain to us what this means? help us understand what this means. And often we will start out like that if it's a certain topic of conversation that doesn't seem, maybe like someone said, well, what is that? I talk about that part of physical intelligence. Maybe you know what that is, but you'll hear as those guests come forth and we're talking about that, let's understand what that is. So seek to understand and then to be understood, you know, and that's how we evolve. That's how we grow in our conversations. And that's how we bring in that power. Again, you can be in that same career field. So, not measuring what you know and think someone else knows, this really can create misunderstandings because you'll say, well, we're the same career field. So, why doesn't she know that? Right there, seek understanding, allowing that person or people or voicing what needs to be corrected or understood. Again, go back to you are understood. So, to make that statement, we want to make sure that we're seeking to understand that person, and let's talk about that. When I said work through the weeds, when you think of weeds, I all I know is I don't think anyone wants weeds in their yard. I don't see the benefit of it. When you see weeds, it's like it really can choke the life out of your grass and the growth you want to happen because you want beautiful grass, but the weeds come and kind of just start taking over, right? So think about your conversations like that. Don't be that weed. You know, allow yourself, to again understand, when we allow that lack of understanding to stand in the way, for example, that could be pride. You allow that pride to stand in the way, you're choking your personal growth, which can affect your professional growth as well. But can I say this? Just pause, give grace, and let's not discount others in their conversation and even discount yourself. If you don't understand, ask. Ask for more information, ask for additional resources, whatever that is, and work through the weeds. Or just say, you know what, I am new in this field. So can you explain a little bit more to me? Ask for clarity. And then that other one is effective. Effective. We want to be effective, right? No one wants to have a conversation with someone and walk away and then you're still standing there like, I still didn't get it. What did that mean? What was all that about? You know, I mean, it's okay. Sometimes we still can ask questions after the fact, but you know what? That's when we follow up, right? But just being effective is that timing. Let's think of it in the part of timing. So that statement you're making is your time matters. You know, what we may think is the right time may not be the right time for someone else. So, you know what this means? This may require scheduling time or just asking before you start talking. I'm sure we all have, think about it. You schedule doctor's appointments, you schedule to get your car maintenance, I schedule with my clients to have that one on one, or schedule with my clients to speak. There is always that timing involved because our time does matter. So maybe sometimes you could just be picking up the phone, making a phone call to someone. For you, it's very urgent. For the other person, they don't know they're getting ready to get the call. But when they get the call, maybe you could start out by saying, is this a good time for you? Do you see that? Because then that's you saying that their time matters because yours do too, right? And so we at that point should be adaptable, being open to what the reply is because maybe that person said, oh, right now is not a good time, but can I talk to you like, can I schedule with you a little later or can you call me back? about 5 when I get off of work, or can you call me about 7 when I get the kids settled in, whatever that is. But we have to see that part of that effective timing is working together, and it's working on both ends. Because you know what? We want to have effective conversations. When guests are on this show, that's a timing. We schedule that timing so we can have effective conversations without the distractions. That doesn't mean that sometimes those things don't pop up because emergencies happen. You know, you can ask yourself, do I want the conversation to fall on deaf ears, or do I want the other person to hear what have to be said, what we're engaging in conversation about? Because effective can mean simplicity, clear and simple, not overcomplicating what you're talking about, but maybe this means allowing yourself the time to prepare what you're going to talk about. What do you want the other person or people to walk away knowing? Often, even in getting a speaking engagement, they want to know, what's your topic? What are your takeaways? What are those top points that you want to present? See, that's preparation, because now you allowed it a time frame. Maybe that's 30 minutes, maybe that's 45 minutes, maybe it's 15 minutes. You know, People will appreciate that because it's you saying your time matters. And it also takes in, that part of saying, I'm taking the time to consider what other responsibilities you may have. I'm even thinking about, what is your availability, which is often times when, what I call, and we've talked about it before on other, episodes where I, talk to my guests and I say, we had a 15-minute, conversation, which was our virtual tea, but it's a part of getting to know each other, laying the ground foundation of what the podcast is about, just using that as an example. But I often will have virtual teas, as I call it, and it's a 15-minute conversation. And you get to schedule it when the time is good for you, so we can come prepared, knowing what this conversation is about and getting to understand each other. And you know what? Being attentive to our timing so we can be more direct in what we're talking about. And then that last one, receptive. At this point, you are saying you are respected. That part of being receptive, it allows you to avoid distractions, you know, and remain contact. I'm attentive, I'm here, I'm open to receive. This is your time. You ask questions when you don't understand. This is also to the point of respecting the fact that we may have different perspectives about a situation or challenge or topic or whatever that is at hand, but we respect each other's perspectives. That doesn't mean we'll always agree. You know, it's a point where you say, you know what, we can agree to disagree. It's okay, because the way you see it and the way I see it, we see it from different standpoints, whatever that it means. That could be from culture, that could be from upbringing, but being receptive to what that person's perspective is, just as well as your own. And then keeping an open mind and fair in what you hear, how you relay it, what it sounds like to you, how you respond, but just staying self aware, being attentive to not judging how a person expressed themselves. Because, okay, I've been guilty. Okay, they didn't have to say it that way, but I don't know what may have triggered that response. Maybe because they're in a stressful place. And it's not always so easy to, let's say, not judge, but being attentive to that and watching your body language. You know, are you frowning? You know, what are you doing? Are you looking away? All those things? But at the point where you're engaging in that conversation for that power talk, be attentive. Watch how you are receiving what's being said to you. So, what signals are you giving with your body language? Are you giving that sense of, language? Because we speak physically with our language as well as verbally. And so, but are you seeking, like, is your body language giving off, okay, I understand, a certain position we sit, maybe a head nod, not really frowning, it may not be so much of an expression, definitely not frowning, because frowning could be like, I'm angry, or I'm not liking what you're saying to me. Is it that body language of lack of interest or impatience? But all of that when we come and when you say, I want to master my conversations. Well, you know what? Be receptive, res- being respectful of one another. And in all of that, these power talks are to get an understanding. When we come in this space, and I use this as an example because this month, as we talk about power talks, we're coming to this platform to give you power conversations. You know, Next week, I'll just say a power of community. What does that mean? How do we see that? We had to set that timing for that. Work through what works. And we want you to understand, when we talk about that subject, when we talk about that topic, we want you to hear the power in it. And you know what? Take that and learn and grow, and take those same powerful conversations somewhere else. That's how we continue to grow, which brings me to this moment. I thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for, giving permission for me to invite you to step into your next with me as your coach, to guide you forward, to help you empower in your life, in your business, to help you move forward and be that accountability to work through the weeds. We're doing that in our conversations. We're working through the weeds. We're finding that time that works, that we can come together in that coaching. We're coming for the feedback and the authenticity in that conversation, and being present in that space with no distractions, and very receptive, listening, actively listening without the distraction, actively listening without the wonder of what you're getting ready to say or what you're going to ask me, or man, I have something else to do, but allowing yourself that space, because you're coming in and saying, I want to master conversations. I want to master parts, this area of my life. And this is how we grow in our relationships. And this is how we grow, even in that part of you having a coach, because now you're empowering yourself to win in your life and business again, on purpose, for purpose, with purpose, meaning, style. And I always say, all you have to do is go to the show description, click on the link. Let's work together, or go to the website site gstylecoaching.com, touch the contact tab, or and put your information in, and let's get it started. And you know what? And continue to listen every Monday. Listen to these episodes that are intentionally here to nurture your growth and to empower you. And you know what? In the meantime, I thank you for continuing to share the love with other sisters, with other groups that you believe will benefit from this podcast. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for your perspectives when you hear this podcast, when you see the topic of the podcast, that you're saying, man, okay, this is what it's all about. When we say, what's all the PMS? And what we know it, if you've been here and you're in this space, is positively motivating sisters with purpose, meaning, style. That's simplicity. That's bringing a power talk to you, being direct in our conversation so you can continue to grow on your growth journey. So, you know what? Your voice matters. What you say matters. Sharing your comments, subscribing, follow, rate, all of this helps increase visibility, helps us stay connected. And I want to say thank you again for supporting the show. That's that financial donation. But thank you so much. And in saying all of that, sisters, until next time, let's keep growing because it all starts with you.